Howdy there, friends, family, adversaries, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary folks. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Riley Constantine, and today we are talking about Prospect, which is the 2018 science fiction western film that is currently available to stream on Netflix. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. I don't really have a transition planned, so I'm just gonna talk until something feels right. Blarg. Prospect presents a relatable world where solutions are far from simple. Despite how this good 2018 independent science fiction film features spaceships, alien creatures, and a future that is foreign to our real world, the film has a harsh yet human emotional center where its characters are straddled with impossible choices that test their resolve. Throughout the movie, these characters make tough decisions in order to strike a balance between their personal goals and their own survival, which in the grand scheme of things is a very understandable theme. After all, most of our lives are filled with bad situations where we must live with making a non-optimal, lesser of two evils style of decision. For a few examples, we may question whether or not we should stay with our girlfriends even though they cheated on us, if Chicago deep dish pizza is better than any other kind of pizza, or if we should go to the hospital after having a heart attack even though an ambulance would cost us $1,000. You know, because America. These are mostly tough questions, and Prospect reflects similar internal character conundrums to a T. Through cinematography, a minimalist soundtrack, and great acting performances, the film presents a bleak future where characters must regularly make the best of a less than satisfactory predicament in a way that compromises their internal value system, just like capitalism does to ours in the real world. You know, because capitalism is a piece of shit. Whatever the case, making near impossible decisions in order to live another day is Prospect's prevalent narrative point, and the film presents this theme through a terrific character-centric story with an abundance of complicated personal predicaments. The plot follows a teenage girl named C and her father Damon, no relation, as they travel to a forest moon. This moon planet is filled with poisonous spores that are toxic to humans unless they are wearing a mask and have an oxygen tank, which is a plot point that is admittedly retroactively topical when factoring in the COVID-19 pandemic. Once on the moon, C and Damon were contracted to mine for valuable gemstones for a dangerous mercenary faction. These profitable gemstones are extracted from a hostile alien species via a surgical procedure that takes a ton of expertise to pull off. In fact, if the extraction goes awry by even the tiniest amount, the gem will be ruined to the disappointment of everyone involved, and the mercenaries would likely execute whoever botched the operation. Hence why they hired Damon, who has a great track record of success when it comes to dissecting alien tentacles under pressure. For sure, it is a hard job, but it's one that could have potentially gone without a hitch due to Damon's and C's prospecting skills. Yet, C's and Damon's trek on the flyover moon runs into some serious issues, seeing as their landing pod goes off course and they crash a long ways from the dig site, causing them to have to walk to the location, which alone admittedly is not a deal breaker. But this is all before the narrative receives a jolted kick in the balls. C and Damon are ambushed by a man named Ezra who has been stranded on this shithole moon for some time, and after a scuffle, Ezra is badly wounded and Damon is killed, which leaves C in a tough predicament. For one thing, she just lost her dad, but even beyond that, C's landing pod is damaged, meaning that the only way off this toxic hell moon is to hitch a ride with the mercenaries who contracted her father in the first place, which presents a big problem. Not only is the procedure to extract the gems difficult, but the violent mercs are expecting a father and daughter team, not a daughter sans father. In other words, a minor alone wasn't a part of the deal. So with that, C forms a partnership and a truce with Ezra, and per the deal, Ezra must pretend to be C's dad in order to hoodwink the mercs so that they can escape the moon together, and in return, C must help Ezra tend to his wounds and share the profits of their labor if their excavation proves successful, because as the gospel of AC/DC foretold, money does indeed talk. Oh, I'm so sorry. That joke sounded a lot better in my head. I know I'm not really that funny. This is where Prospect's themes regarding brutally tough decision-making come back into play. After all, C just watched her father be killed in gruesome fashion, and now in order to survive, she has to team up with his murderer because her only other option is to isolate herself in her broken landing pod as all of her food, supplies, and Febrez's brand of spaceship air fresheners runs out. For her, this is that impossibly hard choice that she is being forced to make, the one where she must balance her desires to leave this ass-backwards planet with the cold hard reality that she can't do that without Ezra's help. And in order to succeed, C must morally compromise between what is right and wrong and with what will allow her to live to fight another day. Otherwise, she will die.
You killed my father.
That is technically true.
Which is an interesting conundrum that is also equally applicable to Ezra as well. Despite how C rightfully holds him in contempt, Ezra needs C's help in order to survive. He is badly wounded and requires C's aid in escaping the moon just as much as she needs his, and as he treks onward with a reluctant C, the narrative presents many opportunities for Ezra to dwell on his partnership with her, his future, his health, and his goals. Moments where Ezra examines what will allow him to hang on for dear life versus what he has become to truly value, which is to say his new paternal role over C, because of course Prospect features a troubled dad storyline, because you know it's a genre trope that is all the rage these days. After all, Ezra is played by Pedro Pascal, a man who was notably typecast as the problematic father figure in other genre shows like The Mandalorian and the upcoming The Last of Us adaptation on HBO, and this parental role extends to Prospect as well. In regard to Prospect, Ezra begins to care about C and views her as his own child even though he is responsible for her father's death, and when he is presented with choices that benefit himself or help C, he is forced to make a decision that simultaneously aligns with both his new internal value system and his survival instinct, which is always a tough balance for him in this film, seeing as the story consistently invents new and interesting problems for C and Ezra to run into that test their new partnership and their personal resolve. And much like how an actual prospector evaluates an area of land, C and Ezra must evaluate the situations they find themselves in so that they can take the best path forward.
You don't hurt little girls in Dorne.
Prospect's supposed flaws further complement the film's themes. The movie's lore isn't very extensive, the broad canvas of the science fiction landscape is underdeveloped, and the audience is never given a solid reason as to why all of Prospect's supposedly futuristic technology looks like it came from the 70s. But this is definitely by design. Prospect's focal point is on the character development between C and Daddy Protector of the Realm, and if there were any scenes that explained any meaningful lore details, that would have taken time away from Prospect's message regarding two people making very tough decisions in order to survive. It really would have diluted Prospect's themes by removing the audience's focus from the most important part of the story, which is C's and Ezra's complicated relationship. Hence why the two characters were rightfully placed in the driver's seat of the story rather than be bogged down by any lore details that corrupt the overall narrative, because Prospect doesn't need that. As far as gems go, it is already pure. And with that, that was the video. Thank you for watching it. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like rating and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment telling me what you think about Prospect, and also consider visiting my Patreon page, which, speaking of Patreon, I want to thank my high tier patrons at Slasher Avails, Mom, David Devlin, and Miles Nelson. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.